fire off at April and Randolph, but I'm not gonna do that, but I'm gonna kick it off by asking both of them a question. I keep looking at my phone, because this is where my notes are, so I'm not texting my wife or anything. But we saw the folks in here talk about how solitary confinement impacted them psychologically, emotionally. And so I wanted to ask both of you if you feel comfortable with talking about how the time that you may have spent in solitary confinement impacted you mentally, emotionally, as well as physically.
Thank you. I heard you say, I think you had spent a couple of 30 days. I spent no longer than 60 days, but I had spent several 60-day stints inside, as well as random stints called administrative seg. Now, administrative seg days are when you might know something and you're not willing to tell, and they throw you in there until, which could be as long as they deem necessary. It doesn't mean that there's an infraction, there's no technical reason, there's nothing that you have done that can be proven. Administrative seg is an indefinite period of time that they can throw you in seg. And I served probably several of those. I went to prison when I was 15, so I was a bit of a Hellcat. And you know, you couldn't really break me. But those times that I was in there, our cells are small, they're dirty, they're damp, you can't see out your windows, you can't get the supplies to clean your cell like you should, you can barely get a roll of toilet paper. You know, sanitary products, I mean, you have to basically beg for them, women do. There's no air conditioning, so you have to, single cell B, there was more than one single cell area, segregation area in the main women's prison where I was for an extended period of time. Single cell A is where you stayed for 6 months or longer. Single cell B, you stayed less than. And single cell B was very hot, very open, like a Andy Griffith type cell. And it was hot. It was just really hot. Like when it was hot outside, it was just really hot. I had to wet my sheets, and it wasn't just me. We all just had to wet our sheets to be cool. And of course, the staff was hot because of the lack of air conditioning. So they're supposed to bring around ice once every hour, but you know that didn't happen because they were too hot. They were too hot to move. So that's my take on solitary confinement.
And I'm just imagining as you describe the conditions, I'm thinking about the emotional and the physical, the psychological toll that it had on you.
Yeah.
And so I know it just from you talk, my own experience, but also reimagining it from you describing the situation. And so, Randolph, I'm wondering if you would care to share
Yeah.
any piece.
I did 33 years in prison for a crime I didn't even commit, so you know I got an attitude.
Right.
With the word, you know. And I've done 2 years in solitary in one room. It plays on your mental.
Talk about
And
it.
you know, people always that don't understand, it's a breaking point. You know, everybody have a breaking point. You know what I'm saying? So when I'm doing the time, what helped me that I prayed a lot. You know, you get a letter from your family, like my brother, I thank God for him, he writes me. You take that same letter and you read it over and over and over again. Yeah, but you get so much out of it. Because some of the words that he's saying, stay strong.
Yeah.
We praying for you.
Yeah.
You ain't in this by yourself.
Yeah.
So all that was like a support. But you always think in your mind, you know, you gotta exercise your mind to say, you know, you can play games with yourself and you look around the cell and say, man, I'm stuck in here. I can't get out this cell. But then you gotta say, well, I refuse to go crazy. It's 2 things I say. I don't want to lose my mind in this prison, and I don't want to die behind these walls. You know what I'm saying? So I learned to deal with it, but it wasn't easy.
Yeah. It's Still harmful.
You know what I'm saying? And then right when you feel like, you know, a little good news coming, the court saying, well, we're gonna review the case, and now you're like, oh, and then you get a letter and one of your loved ones died. Then it knocks you back down because now, when you're in solitary with death, it hurts. That's if you with somebody that you really close.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying? It hurts.
yeah.
Now you know you're saying in your mind like, man, what's really going on? Then the devil play with your mind. You can end all this shit right now. You got a sheet right there. Put it up there. Put it around your neck and end it. The guy next door did it.
Yeah.
He gone. He ain't got to deal with this no more. You got, baby, man, devil, get away from me. I ain't listening to this. Get away from me. You know, and then you watch your kids grow up. You know what I'm saying? So you know when they come to visit you, you behind a glass and they touching the glass. Daddy, you look like damn, she got big. You know what I'm saying? But you don't know what to say. You don't want to lie to her. I'll be home soon. You know what I'm saying? So the mother would be like, oh, I told her you away in college. I said, don't tell her that.
Yeah.
Because when she get old enough, she feels she want to go to college. Don't put that in her mind that I'm in college. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, as she got older, my brother helped raise my daughter, you know what I'm saying, with the family. So he was a big support. He out there, you know, getting me lawyers. You know, they reading the case. Oh man, I can't believe that you did it like that. But I think when you look for a system to help and they fail you, it hurts.
Yeah.
Because you
Even
look
more.
at them saying, yo, you the system. You're supposed to do the right thing. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, things just, it goes on, and it's just more problem, you know, the police in there, they want to deal with you like she was saying, if you ain't a snitch. You know, I know you knew what happened in that block, it ain't my business.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I'm not gonna tell you nothing. I gotta go back to the block and get stabbed up.
Right.
That ain't none of my business. That's your job. You go investigate it. Throw him in the hole. He wanna be a smart ass. I don't wanna be a smart ass. I wanna live.
Right.
I'm in prison, man. I live with these people.
Right. Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Let me say something though, for everyone here, because you just hit a point. Everything that you said was very reflective, wasn't it, of what we saw in the film? You know, all the makeup. But one of the things you said is they just said, okay, throw them in the hole. April talked about just throw them in the hole because they won't talk. And in theory, these places are for the most dangerous people. But as they illustrated, they just didn't want to tell. They got to live with people. Myself included, I've seen these things. So what happens is that our corrections, I say that very loosely, even though that's their term, corrections facilities really harm people, and they use solitary confinement as a weapon.
Yes.
You know, they weaponize it. And one of the things I learned when I was in Europe visiting prisons is that going to prison itself is the punishment. That should be the punishment. But we shouldn't further punish people while they're in prison. But what we should do is treat them humanely. And clearly, from this description, solitary confinement, from what we saw in the film, with these lovely people are describing, is torture. You know? And so one of the things I wanted to ask, the next question or the next point is, you know, noticing the theme of the strike was a strike, a protest. And this was a way of people who are deemed powerless, a way for them to regain some power, regain some agency. And so I'd like to ask both of you if you can remember a time when you were in solitary confinement or just doing your time in the penitentiary, but particularly solitary confinement, where you did something to resist the system, something nonviolent, something that allowed you to regain a sense of agency, a sense of who you are, and not this number, not this item in a system, but able to just say, I am me, and this is why.
In solitary and in regular population, I always educated myself. I tried to get inside of their minds, their meaning the staff. I wanted to educate myself to be able to educate to be able to get free, you know, to look in my case and have others get behind me. But in the same token, like, Randolph, I had to live there. So there are a lot of things that just made sense to me, that they didn't go by this little handbook that they gave you. If they're not following their policy, how could they expect me to follow it as well? So maybe there were certain demands that several of us long-termers, people that had a long time, we would say, you know, this, you know, we should be able to have this, whether it be an extra pair of tennis shoes, an extra pair of underwear at some point. And I can't say that I'm friends, but I do talk to several of the wardens at the prisons where I'm actually on a couple of different boards and stuff. And we've told this story before. We as female, we wanted 10 pair of underwear. And we only had 8 at the time. We were like, can we just have 2 pair of underwear? Well, the person over the clothes house, of course, was a guy. The cost was too much. It would be just too much to give 500 people at that time. The prison, we didn't have 1,000 people to give us 2 extra pair of underwear. We had 2 wash days. You know, things go on in women's lives. We were like, we just want like 2 pairs. We want to be able to wear 2 pair of drawers a day. Is it too much? So we got every long term we could find, even the ones that said, you know, I don't want to get involved, but if you write something, I sign my name. So we got maybe like 50, 60 grievances together, wrote the same thing. We want to have 10 pair of underwear, 10 pair of underwear. They started getting flooded with all these grievances and stuff. And they were like, man, damn, how much? The warden said, listen, just said, because she listened to us when we got together, the long-termers, because she said this was our home. We rarely bought the system, but when we spoke, they listened to us because we rarely wanted something. We wanted 2 extra pair of underwear. Big ass gray drawers, that's all we wanted. That's all we wanted. So she talked to the guy at the clothes house, said, man, how much more would it be? She told me the story. She said, how much more would it be to get 2 extra pair of underwear? And so they calculated it in the state budget, probably took away from one less staff appreciation dinner that they seem to have every month. And we ended up be able to get 10 pair of underwear because of that.
That's the right thing. Wow.
And yeah, but you know, it's a lot of things that when I first fell in the system, and I'm looking at this movie, when they protest and stuff like that, those guys back in the days was more union. They stood up, and the administration realized we got a problem. You know, when something like they work all day in the farm, the cow don't even tell them you get potatoes and all that stuff out the field, 100-some degree, and they work all day, they want to eat something good. You ain't gonna come in there and just feed them. And when they don't do it, they don't go to work. When they don't go to work, then the superintendent wonder like, what's going on? But they was more chain gang guards. And they gets it right. But you shouldn't have to do all this to get something right when you already know that, you know, most of the things in prison, they running these enterprises. You know what I'm saying? We make the clothes, make the police uniform, we do the food, do the tags, we do all that. And I mean, you know, they making eyeglasses and everything, so it's a big enterprise, they making money. So why they don't just sit there and say, okay, you know, I'm working them for $1 a day or 20 cents an hour. These guys faithfully going to work and working overtime. You know, and then they just say, you know, we just want a good meal on Christmas. We just want some good meal on Thanksgiving. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, it was like, it's like the system now, it had failed so much because I'm thinking it's just so, you know, they playing a different type of game now. Like this solitary, they don't do it like they were saying doing it for violent people, they just doing it for people. You know, hey, you know what happened, someone's doing it, I don't know nothing, man, throw them in the hole. And then they say in that 30 days, they come back, you want to talk, get away from my cell, okay, leave me back there 30 more days. So, you know, you build up and you say in your mind, man, you extorting me. You professionally extorting me. I mean, you really think that this is cute, and it builds up anger. And then it makes you be mad, and it's bad, because now you mad with everybody with a uniform. But most of them with a uniform ain't had nothing to do it, but it takes one person to do it, you see them do you like that, and you feel like, yo, these people, that's what you say in your mind.
These people.
I can't believe they're extorting me like that. You know what I'm saying? Different things, you know, food is shortening.
And then that leads to like cyclical behavior, and you start lashing out to the
The
people in the uniforms.
Yeah.
Then you get more time. So then you get trapped in a system that's not meant to help you do better.
And that makes you stay in there worse more. You know, make you catch more charges.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And then when they came out with that, they charged you $10 for a write-up.
Yeah.
Oh man, you had police didn't even understand, man. You messing up people's lives, writing them up for little stuff. You know what I'm saying? And they just make up stuff.
Yeah.
No, I told him to go this way. I don't even remember speaking to you, man. Put handcuffs on him, lock him up.
Yeah.
That's how they was using they said.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And then you stay back there long enough, it plays on your mental.
It sure does.
You know what I'm saying?
Let me tell you just real quick, as he says that, I spent 2 30-day sentences in solitary confinement in New York, and it was just for saying something, you know, to somebody else that I guess was in regards to maybe a protest, and they put me in there. But after 5 days, maybe 5 days, I started hallucinating, to your point.
You
know.
can always tell the people when they had spent a long time in SEG and they come out to regular population, when they would go to the dining room, you could see the anxiety. You could see it rise in them because they had been in a box
Yeah.
for 30 days, 60 days, and then you come out and it's all this noise. It's like
Yeah.
this one sits here, this unit sits there, go there, you get meds, and you could just see them kind of, you know, just looking, they're very anxious. You could just kind of see how it had played on their mental health.
Kind of to Jack's point in the film when he said he
Yeah.
got out on the main yard
Yeah.
and all the movement played on
The
him. But,
noise, the lights.
They do. They
but
do.
then think about this, and I know you've just come home not long ago, bro.
Been home now going on 7 months.
Yeah. So
I'm
think
Learning a
about
lot of things now. Like he was saying, it's true. It's like you was lost.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? But you know, I got a team.
Did you come home from the box?
No, I came home from Hillsborough.
Imagine
Right.
somebody coming home from solitary
Oh
confinement.
yes, so that'll be even, you know, yeah, that one really.
Released right from there after 7 months, 7 days or whatever. Boom, right back out here. Here's a phone. You know, go get a job. You know, get on the train.
Well,
Blah,
I
blah,
was
blah.
released, right at the end of COVID, so they were busy doing still some mask restrictions and stuff, and some people I know that were released during COVID, they were like, they had spent 20 years, and he couldn't go anywhere. So he was still in SEG, because he couldn't leave because of COVID. It was like, oh, well, get out after 20 years, I can go do this and that, and couldn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
So that added extra. But I have a story about solitary confinement. I told it the other day. It has to do with, there was a husband and wife correctional officers. They were both really nice. She worked on segregation, so I knew her well. And when I was on regular population, I knew him because he was the one that had the key to the yard. So I was like, you gonna open yard, you know, because half the time we were ready for yard and stuff, and they'd be like, they ain't enough staff. There's always some reason why they couldn't let me outside. And so I talked to him a lot because he was the one that had the key to open the gate for me to go to yard. That was my buddy. So someone in SEG hung themselves. This is the lady. And when she came to regular population one day, it was shortly thereafter, she was like, April, I was the one that got her down. So over time, I mean, she took some time off, and then we didn't see her. And so I was like, yo, you know, where's old girl at? I haven't seen her. He said, she's just having some trouble. She's got some PTSD. Like, she's worked there for years. Very nice couple. And he starts telling me, he's told me a story, because they got to, when you were there for a minute, they would tell you about their lives. They weren't supposed to, but, you know, there was a human side to some of them. And he said that she would be in the car, and when it was time for her to get out, to go to the store, go to the gym, she just couldn't get out of the car. Her mind wouldn't let her. Wonder why she never came back. She eventually left and started drawing disability for PTSD. She never came back because of that. So just imagine if this was a career and a job for this particular person, then the person in the cell beside the person that hung themselves, it's just exactly like that. A wellness check and nobody's there. So just imagine how that person felt, you know.
And so everybody in the prison systems are being harmed, especially folks who are in solitary confinement. especially the guards who are working there, as well as the men and women that live in those conditions. And people who live in solitary confinement, as well as the people that work there, have increased rates of health failure,